The driveway seemed to stretch on forever, a long shadow of what it once was. The asphalt cracked and worn like the faces of the people who lived here. As I stepped out of the car, the silence was almost palpable, a heavy stillness that clung to me like a wet shroud. The trees, bare and skeletal, stood sentinel along either side of the drive, their branches etched against the pale sky like the delicate pen and ink drawings of my childhood. It had been years since I'd returned to this place, yet the feeling of unease that settled in the pit of my stomach was familiar, a lingering echo of all the times I'd tried to escape. The farmhouse itself loomed at the end of the drive, its windows like empty eyes staring back at me, the porch creaking softly in the breeze as if waiting for someone to occupy it. As I stood there, trying to unravel the tangle of memories and emotions that had brought me back to this place, a creeping sense of unease began to seep into my bones. The whispering in my mind, once a soft murmur, grew louder, like a quiet breeze rustling through dry leaves. "Welcome home," it seemed to say, the words echoing off the trees with an unnerving familiarity. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I tried to shake off the feeling of being watched, of being waited for. The farmhouse behind me seemed to loom even larger, its windows like empty eyes that followed me as I turned away. I'd thought I was escaping something here, leaving all this behind, but now it felt like I'd been drawn back in, inexorably, like a moth to a flame. The darkness closing in around the edges of my vision made my heart beat faster, my breath catch in my throat. I forced myself to take a step forward, to push past the growing sense of dread and enter the house, but the whispering just grew louder still. As I stepped closer to the house, the whispering seemed to fade into an unsettling stillness, like the world was holding its breath in anticipation of something. The old farmhouse loomed before me, its boards weathered to a silvery grey that seemed almost otherworldly in the fading light. The windows, once bright with morning sun, were now boarded up, their wooden slats worn smooth by years of exposure. And yet, as I gazed upon this rural landscape, an inexplicable warmth began to seep into my chest, a sense of belonging that was both disorienting and unnerving. The air seemed heavy with secrets, weighed down by the accumulated silence of generations past. A shiver danced along my spine as I reached out a trembling hand to touch the weathered boards, feeling an eerie glow emanating from within, as if something had been waiting patiently for me. As I stepped further into the farmhouse, the chill of years began to thaw, and with it, a creeping sense that something had been stirred, ever so subtly. The air inside was stale, heavy with the weight of forgotten memories, but beneath its stillness, a faint hum seemed to vibrate, like the quiet buzzing of insects in my mind. I wandered from room to room, my footsteps echoing off walls adorned with faded photographs, faces frozen in time, their smiles creased and worn, their eyes seeming to follow me with quiet curiosity. A dusty piano stood at the far end of the hall, its music sheet still spread across the keys, as if the player had vanished into thin air. The silence was oppressive, yet somehow comforting, like a familiar weight on my shoulders. I ran my fingers over the weathered boards, feeling an eerie glow emanating from within. It seemed that whatever had been waiting patiently for me was now stirring once more. As I stand there, my fingers tracing the worn wood, a sense of unease begins to seep into the air. It's as if the very atmosphere is responding to my presence, growing heavy with an unspoken tension. I take a tentative step forward, my eyes scanning the room, but there's nothing out of place. Yet, the silence is oppressive, like a physical weight pressing down upon me. And then, I notice a small, leather-bound book on the top shelf, nestled between two volumes that were once packed with row upon row of dog-eared paperbacks. But this one it seems to have appeared out of nowhere. A faint scent of sandalwood wafts up from its cover, like the gentle tickle of a finger tracing my spine. I feel a shiver run down mine, but not with fear, rather with a growing curiosity about how something so deliberate could be overlooked by everyone who's lived here for so long. I've been searching every room, every nook and cranny of this old house, but I keep coming back to the same unsettling feeling that something is watching me from just out of sight. Every creak of the floorboards, every groan of the wooden beams makes me jump. I've tried to convince myself it's just the old farm settling into its foundations, but deep down I know it's more than that. I've been scouring these rooms for hours, and finally, I've found what I was looking for, a door I'm pretty sure wasn't here before. It's slightly ajar, as if someone had recently passed through it. I push it open slowly, my heart pounding in my chest, and step inside. I move cautiously down the narrow hallway, my eyes adjusting to the dim light that filters through the cracks around the door. The air inside is stale and heavy with the scent of decay. I can feel a fine layer of dust coating everything, as if it's been untouched for years. The silence is oppressive, making every creak of my boots sound like an avalanche in comparison. I begin to fumble for the light switch, but hesitate, wondering if I really need to illuminate this place. What if the darkness serves me better? But my curiosity gets the better of me and I flip the switch, casting a feeble glow over the room. It's small, with walls lined by old bookshelves that stretch all the way to the ceiling. In the center of the space, a single chair sits before a dusty desk upon which lies an open diary. I sit down in the chair, my fingers tracing the worn wood as I read her final entry by the faint light that's managed to seep through the grimy panes of the window. The words on the page are a mix of love, loss, and desperation, each sentence leading me deeper into Emilia's tortured soul. She writes about the child, who she found out existed only after her death, and how I'm somehow connected to this little person's fate. My mind reels as I try to comprehend the extent of my connection, but Emilia's words paint a picture that makes all too much sense. The more I read, the more I realize that I've been given a chance to right a wrong, to bring some measure of peace to a life cut short by circumstance and heartache. The weight of this responsibility settles heavier on my shoulders as I finish the last entry. Emilia's voice trails off into silence, but mine carries on for her, speaking words I never knew she needed me to say. I'll find them. I glance up at the sky, searching for a sign of guidance or a glimmer of hope. And in that instant, it falls silent once more. Thank you for listening. If this story found you in the dark, subscribe and turn on notifications. A new tale waits every night.